So we've entered the next data decade, and there's no doubt that we've set the bar really high for technology. So here to explore all of that is Sumant Mandal, a managing partner of March Capital Partners. Short and sweet.
So, good afternoon. I have 5 minutes to explain what's going to happen over the next 10 years. The first thing...
5 years, 2 minutes.
Next time, Jamie, next time. So here's the only slide that you should remember. And I'll go through a bunch of slides. You can have them later, but I'm going to go through them really quick. The one thing is, the last 10 years, I think, has been around people getting online. And the way you interact with the network has been a screen. Then the next 10 years, I think that screen's going to disappear. How we think of technology, how we think of when we invest in companies is that technology comes in fundamental changes, fundamental waves. And when we started out with client server, went to the internet, the forms that you use in client server software went to the internet, came online in data centers. That went into mobile. Everybody in mid-2000s, every company I met was a mobile company. Now, of course, the last 10 years has been about cloud and cloud adoption. We're in the middle of this wave of what we think of as a layer of intelligence, AI systems that sit on top of enterprise technology. And then, of course, what we're excited about in the next 5 to 10 years should be 5G and then quantum soon after. It's been an incredible amount of value created as companies have taken software to the cloud. Trillions of dollars of revenue, but also hundreds of billions of dollars of new equity value. And these companies, if you just look at the growth of the SaaS companies over the last 10 years, is unprecedented. What do people think about when they think about cloud? It's still, I would say, a long way to go from being mainstream, but it's definitely getting to a place where it means something. Security remains the primary concern. I think we'll see a lot more around making that available to enterprise customers. Why now for AI? The algorithms are the same I studied in college 30 plus years ago. But it's now price performance-wise worth doing. The compute power, network power that you have allows you to run these algorithms on very, very large amount of data and get some intelligence from them. You couldn't do it before and justify the price. Big companies are adopting it. You're going to hear from UiPath. I think it's a very exciting company. The reason I think all of us are excited is this revenue from AI in the enterprise is going to triple in the next 3 years. So it's going to be about $100 billion of enterprise spend is going to be spent on what we think of as systems of intelligence. What about AI systems? What needs to happen? AI doesn't scale very well. And I think a lot of companies we meet can do a lot of interesting things in POCs, in the lab, but when they actually deploy at scale, it's not that easy. Measuring the results, knowing how to audit the AI loop and making sure you trust the results is still up in the air. 5G, a couple of years away is what Verizon tells us. If you go to their lab and you see all the different applications around gaming and consumer adoption or media, it's quite interesting. But for us, again, I think where 5G has the most impact is bringing industrial systems online. Quantum, still very early, quite exciting for people like me who studied this in college. It's very exciting to see something real come out of it. It's going to affect a lot of different industries, but it's very, very early. In fact, I think Honeywell came out with a really interesting announcement a few days ago, working with one of our investments, Cambridge Quantum, out of Cambridge, UK. They probably are the most furthest advanced in bringing quantum computing to a place where it can be actually used. So, quick 2 minutes around AI in the enterprise. Enterprise software also has waves. We're sitting, between intelligence and now autonomous systems where decisions are taken without a human being in the middle. Artificial intelligence is very different from business intelligence because these systems are learning systems. They constantly in a learning loop. BI, was very interesting 4 or 5 years ago. AI. It's still a science that is being explored. I wouldn't say everything in AI it works. If you look at a company that's selling an enterprise AI system, maybe 20% of the code is actually machine learning. Most of the other stuff is making it work. Very important, but still not AI. I'll give you an example of transfer learning. You could use AI and say, I'm going to predict when a machine is going to fail. Let's say it's an oil rig for British Petroleum. One of our companies works with them. I'm going to predict when you're going to have a failure. But a failure only happens once, maybe every 5 years. So you really don't have enough data to predict when it could happen from that one machine. But if you use a different machine and take the learnings from a completely different machine and apply it to this, there's chances of you catching these failures before they happen. But AI isn't that intelligent. So even though it has a name, the word intelligence in it, what it can do is correlate data and come out with inference based on correlation. It cannot tell you why things happen, not yet. There's actually a lot of research in something called causation AI that's happening. It started here in UCLA. It's exciting, but it's so early. I don't think it's in any way commercially viable. Companies in our portfolio, I talked about, Spark Cognition is in Austin, Texas, 55 PhDs, doing really well in going after large industrial systems, predictive maintenance, Foghorn and Forte, decision engines. All these companies are going after different enterprise functions, different needs in the market, using AI to create some value. Now, one of the things that we do realized happens as enterprises use these software technologies to automate is it is going to affect the workforce. And we can go through any of these statistics. We just don't know where they're going to go or where they're going to come from, but a lot of education and regulation probably in the next 10 years. Another area where AI is actually having major effect is in internet networks. So if you think of, I'll give you an example. There's a company in India, Reliance. They launched a mobile broadband geo service. They can serve broadband at $1 a month, and they do this because they have been absolutely focused on automation. Absolutely. Even though Indian human capital in India is much cheaper than here, this company can do this just because they're focused on automation. Financial services, industrials, transportation. And I think my sort of takeaway from all of this is that this Internet of everything, once it exists everywhere, it becomes the virtual world becomes an overlay on the physical world. And my last slide, 10 years, here we go. If you have the 5G networks, you have edge compute, which means you have a computer very close to you with almost no latency everywhere. We can't even imagine the kinds of applications that are going to be written to right on top of that, the kind of value they will provide. So one interesting vision, something to take into account, BPOs, outsourcing, everybody talks about things going to India or going to Philippines, et cetera. Well, imagine this. You have an autonomous car, which needs to be supervised by a human being, but that human being is now sitting halfway around the world. So one company idea I was pitched is let's train 500 Indian drivers to drive on the streets of LA so that when these cars are available, that could be a company. I don't know. We didn't invest. So anyway, thank you. Next 10 years are very exciting. We are excited to be in this business. And thank you all for coming and listening to me for a few minutes. Thank you.